Welcome to Vessel and Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Charlson. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about soul timelines versus human timelines and how reincarnation works, that you may have lives that are out of order chronologically, but are in order for your reincarnation. Today's episode is a topic that first came up in a client channeling session. The client asked a bunch of questions about reincarnation and how reincarnation works, and it helped me make sense of some of the information that I gained through doing energy healing and working on energy from my past lives, especially when I found out by doing energy healing that my next life is actually further back in chronological human time and it's already happened according to human chronology versus my soul, where it hasn't yet occurred in terms of my soul's evolution. And it confused me to no end of how could my soul be reincarnating in the past and it's not yet happened in terms of where my soul is in its evolution right now. And I'm preparing for that life in this lifetime. How does that work? I'm really glad that my client asked Monty a bunch of questions about reincarnation and that he first explained this concept in a channeling session. I'm really excited to get into it with you today. So I'm going to let Monty talk about this first, since it is really purely a spiritual concept that I don't have a lot to add about. And then we'll come back together in the end to do some reflecting on it. Thank you for joining us for today's episode about soul timelines and human timelines. There is a distinct difference between your soul timeline and your human timeline in terms of how they coincide and which is most important to prioritize your focus on as part of your spiritual development. So first, let us clarify what the human timeline is. The human timeline is the construction from the beginning of time of what you perceive as the universe through till this moment in time in chronological order, going through the progression of all of the different evolutions of the different stages of physical reality. Now, it is important to understand that humans are constantly studying and piecing together different information to allow themselves to understand this timeline going back millennia. So that way they have a better and deeper understanding of how humanity came to arrive in this moment, in this time, in this place. Humans pride themselves on studying the past so that way they can gain information on why the current reality is the way it is, as well as lessons that could be learned and re-internalized again to help us avoid different issues going forward. And we say we because the human collective of all of the energy that humanity is creating on a consistent basis affects all of creation. It is a symbiotic relationship. So the energy that humanity is putting out as part of their studies, as part of their gaining of knowledge, and as part of recalibrating based off of the studies of human history and non-human history through time in that chronological order creates different energies at different times. For example, when humanity in their timeline realized the existence of different planets within the solar system, that changed the human consciousness and is the reason why astrology has evolved over time, as well as its effects on humanity. As human consciousness has evolved, humanity has become more in tune with energies of different types. And when these energies are more in involvement with the physical manifestation of human creation, these energies produce different results within the non-physical realm. This is why chronologically human time is still important. However, for each individual, there is also a similar timeline called soul timeline in our verbiage that we will speak about today. Your soul, through all of its different reincarnations, will hop around in the chronological order of human time. For example, our vessel's next life that is planned will be much earlier in the human timeline than her current existence in this life right now. She will go back in time, as it were, to a different era of human existence in order to experience a specific outcome in a specific time at that particular situation that her soul needs to evolve. All of your different reincarnations build one upon the other as your soul is choosing to do different things, to experience different things, and to work with different energies in different ways. And so, to create the optimal situation for those events to occur, your soul will reincarnate at different times within different timelines in chronological order. This also includes non-human timelines, depending on what you are being incarnated into. It may be that you are being incarnated on planet Earth as a non-human being. It could be that you are being reincarnated somewhere else in the existing universe in physical form. There are many different ways that your soul can be reincarnated. While there are different aspects to the energy of each one of these different experiences and what you take away from it, your soul is experiencing these in its own timeline. However, what is important to understand is that your soul is also timeless in its pure essence. So while each incarnation for your soul is in a chronological order, they also all coexist at the same time when taking in the capacity of the fullness of your soul. This is why, for example, we know what our vessel's next lifetime will be already, despite that it has not happened, because we can sense those energies and be helping to prepare Kimberly for her next iteration in her next lifetime for those experiences that she will have. Now, as the soul timeline contributes to the soul in its fullness and its full aspect, each different part of each different physical experience that a soul goes through will contribute different energies and different experiences and different knowledge to the soul itself. The soul can access all of these in terms of a knowledge and energetic repository of all of the different incarnations that are possible. However, as you are merely one extension of your soul at any given time, it is less likely that you will be able to access all of this energy. What is required for you to access all of this energy is instead to bring in more of the energy of your soul. In this particular incarnation, you are working on one specific aspect of your soul, one specific element energetically that you are working with in this particular lifetime. Now, what is important to understand is that different lifetimes will work with different aspects of your soul. And that is why, if you have ever done past life regression, or someone has told you about past lives that you have had, it feels very foreign. It feels very distant. It feels as though it is not actually you as part of it, though there is a small grain of knowledge, of understanding that yes, maybe that is me. The reason why is that those energies from previous reincarnations could be very distant energetically, not in time and not in experience, but energetically from what you are in this current reality, in this current reincarnation. And so therefore, you do not have access to that energy any longer. Now, there is something to be said, however, of that these energies are still part of your soul and are still available to you. However, your soul may not be choosing to direct those energies to you. While a soul does not necessarily think and have logic in the way that humans may desire it to, souls will channel specific energies to specific reincarnations to experience different aspects of itself, and also to grow from a spiritual standpoint. So, for example, if you lived a life where you were experiencing the energy of restriction, oppression in one particular lifetime, that energy may not be as familiar to you. However, there can still be an energy that is remaining. It is not as strong as when you were in that incarnation where it was imprinted into your soul and your soul was experiencing that energy. But it could be that within your energy now, there is a remnant of it. However small, it may still be there. And it so may still be affecting your existence in this particular lifetime. It is an unconscious thing that is not part of your conscious awareness, that is not part of your life in this moment, and yet you still have this attachment to this energy from a previous incarnation. You can think of it much in the same way as a relationship, as that there is a line that is tying you to all of your other lives, creating a web of energy. Now, when these connections are much more distant, the energy is less strong than in other lifetimes. However, it can be that your soul decided that you would carry this forward to work on this energy in a different situation and a different experience, which allows you then to have the capacity and the space to be able to process through that energy, despite that you are no longer in that situation of oppression or restriction. It is important to understand that this is why sometimes you may feel certain energies are very prevalent in your life, despite that your physical reality is not that situation. And so it is time for you to work through that energy that you are still holding within your space, that you no longer wish to be part of your reality. As your soul is going through all of these different experiences, to experience itself fully, it must go through the process of experiencing a wide variety of different energies, even if those energies are not positive. You will have lives where you will have negative, not positive outcomes. And this is because your soul wishes to experience all that there is to experience of itself. You must challenge yourself in different ways to experience the fullness of your being. So it may be that you had a very horrible life in a previous iteration of your human timeline, whether it is in the human future or the human past. It does not matter. But this energy may still be very much connected to you. In terms of how connected it is to you, does not matter if they are in your soul timeline, a progression of one to the next, though this is most common of that the most immediate life previous carries the most energy into the life forward. If you had an experience that was very difficult for your energy or was very rooted into your energy, but was many lifetimes ago, it can be something that you are still working on now. It may also take multiple lifetimes for you to accurately and completely process through different energies that you have brought into your energy. As you are working through this and contemplating the energies that you are challenged by in your lifetime, some people may find that they need the logic, they need the reasoning of why they are experiencing this because they need to understand the previous lifetimes that they had. It is important to understand that it may be a life that you have yet to experience in terms of your human reality. It may be a lifetime that is 400 or 500 years in the future that is most prevalent in your energy now. It is important to understand that past life regression is not sufficient when solving these, but you must take the totality of all of your lives to understand completely your energy in this one particular lifetime and what it is that you are still processing through. Despite that you are still processing through energy from other lifetimes that your soul has experienced, there is also that you are bringing in new experiences and new energies at the same time. It is important to understand that often these are outside of your control in this particular incarnation. It may be that your soul chose to come into this particular experience to experience these conditions and energies, to work with them because it believes that it would contribute to its soul growth. It is important to understand that there is a certain amount of choosing of this, that when you reincarnate, there are certain situations where the soul is able to decide, I wish to experience these sorts of conditions or these sorts of energies, please, before the reincarnation occurs. As well as it may be that situationally, the reincarnation that you go into next as part of the evolutionary process of the entire universe, moving and changing over time, is that it is required for you to go through a certain particular experience at that time. And so you decide to reincarnate. It is always a choice. It is always a choice for your soul or any other soul to come into reincarnation into physical form. It is not mandatory. And so that is why there are many of us in non-physical form that choose to experience energy in a different way. Souls that choose to come through the soul timeline process and reincarnate in physical reality are choosing also to experience a certain amount of limitation and restriction. That is why many say that those who are in physical reality are masters of energy. It requires working with energy in a deep way to be able to work with energy in physical reality. For many of us that are non-physical, our skills are not yet ready to come into physical manifestation to be able to process energy, to work with energy, and to do it in such restriction. We hope this clarifies some points about past lives and the energies that you carry forward. That is all. I appreciate Monty sharing this particular insight because, as I said at the beginning of this episode, it helped me make sense of some information that I gained by doing energy work. I personally have never done past life regressions, but do have a couple friends that have always said, it didn't feel like me whatsoever who was saying these things in this kind of trance state while talking about past lives. And I have no recollection, no connection whatsoever. And yet, the same themes that were coming up in those past lives are now coming up in my life now. And clearly I'm still working through it. And that made so much more sense once Monty kind of explained in that client channeling session how our souls have its own unique timeline versus human timeline. For me in particular, what was revealed to me is that my next life in my soul timeline is actually back in time in a different part of the world, in a different part of human existence where there's not very many records. So I can't go back and look it up and be able to say, oh, wow, okay, I think this is my next future life. And one of the things that Monty also emphasizes in client channeling sessions when someone is asking questions about past lives, he says the details don't matter that much. You don't need to try to research it to figure out your name or the conditions that you're living in or the different events that happened. What's more important is the energy that you have taken in to your energetic system and the energies that you're still processing through. So I could definitely go down the rabbit hole of trying to research to figure out this next life that I'm supposed to have and try to pinpoint it and find out more about it so that way I could better prepare in this lifetime. But Monty really discouraged me against doing that. Not that I really was inclined to do it anyway, but that he said, you need to let that experience unfold the way that it's going to, but understand that whatever energies that you're working with in this lifetime, whatever challenges that you're working through, whatever energies you still need to process that you've internalized, that external energies that are not yours, that are still hanging out, you're going to carry those partly forward with you into your next lifetime. And it's important that you do the spiritual work in this lifetime to prepare for the next lifetime. And that requires that we take that very higher perspective of we have many lifetimes. We're never going to get the work done in one single lifetime. We're never going to get to the point of ascension in a single lifetime. It's a process of many different reincarnations where we are working with the same different types of energy over and over in different ways. So our energy can process that energy, transmute it, internalize it in a productive way instead of internalizing it in a negative way. I find that very intriguing of taking that perspective because there's definitely that I want to get it done in this lifetime, in that pressure that many of us feel, especially when we're kind of in the early stages of our spiritual journey of, okay, I really want to be ascended. I really want to work towards enlightenment. We can put a lot of pressure on that process. I've had a lot of clients say that. I experienced that myself earlier on in my spiritual journey of when I first started reading more and understanding more and really processing more information about the spiritual journey of, wow, it would be so cool if this is the lifetime that somehow I get to be enlightened. That would be amazing. Yeah, it would. But in all reality, enlightenment is something that happens over many, many lifetimes. And I say the term enlightenment because that's what we have to talk about it. But really what Monty's also talked about is that enlightenment is really just that we are experiencing the fullness of our soul and our energy consistently without any restriction, is how he articulates it, which is a little bit different than, say, the Buddhist tradition. Their definition of enlightenment is different. So I think also understanding that as we are working through this of embodying more of our soul energy is the first step that we're really working towards. And that many of us definitely struggle with that of showing up in our daily lives in such a way where we're the embodiment of our soul and we're not letting the outside sources and external sources tell us how to behave, that we're really asking our soul energy to guide us forward instead, which is one of the topics that Monty has really been covering a lot lately in our membership. And I am very excited that he is, because it's answered a lot of questions for me. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any questions, please make sure to send them to us at hello@kimcharlson.com. We would like to hear from you. And if you have any questions about reincarnation, we will be doing another episode in a few weeks. So please send them our way and we will try to cover them in a future episode. And if you want to hear more from Monty on these particular topics of how you can begin to embody your soul more, you definitely want to consider joining us in the Awakened Authenticity community. It's just $15 a month and you get access to weekly messages from Monty with specific tasks that you can start doing as part of your spiritual growth and evolution to help you start embodying your soul more and get on that path towards really having that energy in your life and acting through that energy rather than any external restrictions that you have internalized that are processing your energy and making you feel like you can't be in the fullness of who you are. So we'd love to have you join us in that membership community. If you've been enjoying this podcast, please share it with any friends, leave us a review, or send it to your favorite podcast host that you want us to be one of their guests to channel for them and spread these messages a little bit further. We appreciate you so much, and we will see you in the next episode.